All right, guys, I want to welcome everybody to another weekly episode of Conversations with Commodores. And I suspect that you guys recognize my buddy here, my teammate, Big D, Derrick
Yes,
Sartor. How
sir.
you doing, Derrick? Good to see you, bud.
It's great to see you too, Bernard.
Now, for those of you who don't know where Derrick is right now, you must not be on social media because my friend does a wonderful job of advertising and keeping the public informed. But I'm not going to spill it. I'm going to let Derrick tell you guys a little bit about where he is and what he's been doing for about 20 years now.
That's right. That's right. Bernard, first, let me thank you, man. I really appreciate you doing this show. And I don't think we could have had a better host, man. I mean, it seems like you're so connected to everyone, and this kind of brings it all together from the different eras of Vanderbilt football. So it's become my must-see TV, so to speak, since I've been down here. But yeah, I've been here in the DR since 2008. I moved here in 2008 and opened up a little barbecue shack on the beach, and the rest is history, as they say, just doing what I love. I've always enjoyed barbecuing. I always enjoyed cooking. And I was fortunate to come down here and open up. The plan was to open up a little barbecue place to have something to do and then go back to the States, stay for a few months, then go back to the States. Got down here and never left, Bernard. Been here ever since.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now tell folks you're in the DR, but as you and I learned back in December, that could be a long way across that island. And we got to FaceTime back in December, but unfortunately didn't get to see each other. So for folks who may know of the geography of DR or may not, tell folks just a little bit about where you are. And by the way, I put a link to Big D's Barbecue in the show notes, so you guys will be able to click on that and follow what Derrick does.
I'm on the north coast of the Dominican Republic. And like most people, if you're like me, Bernard, before I moved here, I didn't know anything about the DR, other than that's where baseball players came from.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't point to, if you gave me a map back 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I'm not sure I could point to it on a map. But so yeah, I'm on the northern coast. Most people that come down here on vacation, probably about 70% of the tourism is on the opposite coast in Punta Cana and Bávaro. But I love it where I live because it's more of you get more of the Dominican community. You know what I'm saying? You get a chance to be involved in the community. You're not stuck in some or in some resorts. You can actually get into the community. So that's what I love about the part of the country that I live in. And it's huge. I mean, that's most people don't realize. The island of Hispaniola is huge. It also encompasses Haiti. So it's huge. So you can travel 10 hours from one side of the island to another, and you're still only in the Dominican Republic.
Is there a particular state that's kind of similar in geography-wise, size-wise?
I wish I knew that. If I had to say, Dominican Republic is probably the size of, I'm from Georgia, so I would imagine it's about the size of Georgia.
Yeah, maybe.
Don't quote me on that, but if I had to guess, yeah.
Oh, Derrick, we got some folks rolling in that say hello to you. Brandy Jackson Scott says, "What's up?"
Hey, Brandy, how you doing, darling?
Sam Chalmers is with us. Hey, Sam.
Sam, what's up, buddy?
Derrick, it's the Dominican to me, because I'm such a big baseball fan. So many wonderful ball players over the decades have come from the Dominican Republic. Is that the main sport, or are there others? Is there a national sport that doesn't get as much publicity because they don't send athletes into the pros into the United States?
Yeah, I would imagine obviously baseball is the biggest sport. But once again, where I am, yeah, they have baseball. Each community has its own baseball team, and they're really professional. They get paid. So, and that's like that throughout the island. Each little town, each little pueblo, each little city has its own little team. And some of those guys go on to go to the pros, or go to college in the States. So yeah, baseball, without a doubt, is probably the most popular sport. But basketball is big down here too. And believe it or not, I live in Puerto Plata, which is more of a city, and I'm getting a lot of people, a lot of Dominicans that are actually interested in American football.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. That's all. Well, it just shows you the power of the NFL, of the Shield, and its ability to share its sport all over. Well, Derrick, let's get off the island for a few minutes. Let's talk about coming out of Atlanta. What part of Atlanta, Coach Gary Shepard says to tell you.
How you doing, Coach?
Linda must have let him out of the restaurant for a few minutes.
Yeah, I know. We can talk shop a little bit later, Coach.
Now, I was getting ready to say, you guys have a lot to talk about, but I bet Coach Shepard's in the back of the kitchen where he's supposed to be cleaning or.
Oh, they actually let him in the kitchen? They let Coach Shepard in the kitchen?
For spending some time with us tonight. But Derrick, let's talk about growing up in Atlanta. What part of Atlanta did you grow up in? Where'd you go to high school and all that good stuff?
I grew up in College Park, which is in Southwest Atlanta, suburb of Atlanta. And I actually moved to Atlanta. I was born in Texas. I bet you didn't know that, did you?
No, I didn't know that.
I was born in East Texas, Texarkana, Texas. But my father was a military school, so I actually really grew up in Atlanta. I moved there in the 1st or 2nd grade. And pretty much the whole time I lived in Atlanta, it was in Southwest Atlanta, College Park, East Point. My high school at the time was named Lakeshore High School. And after I graduated in '87, I think the last graduating class was in 1988. And then it became Westlake High School, which we got all types of athletes. Cam Newton, Pac-Man Jones, I can go on and on. The talent that came out of Westlake High School, which is the same area that I grew up.
Well, if it wasn't for the likes of you, they may not have come to Westlake.
So you saying I led the way?
You definitely led the way.
All right, I'll buy it.
They are standing on your shoulders, my friend. And speaking of one of your teammates and my teammates, one of Vanderbilt's greats, Corey Harris, is in the house. Hey, Corey.
Nate, what's going on, buddy?
He said, "What's up, Soto? God bless you. Keep going on."
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, Derrick, as a kid, when did you hit your growth spurt? When did you decide which sports you liked the best? And did you play multiple sports growing up, or did you just?
Yeah, I played every sport. I was basketball. I guess basketball was really my first love. Basketball. I say every sport. I played basketball, baseball, and football. My dad was a great baseball player. I was a terrible baseball player. So actually, I was more scared as a child of playing baseball than I was football. I was just scared that ball was going to hit me. Now, if you put some pads on me, I got a chance to go hit somebody, but that ball I had no control over. So I was absolutely terrified of playing baseball. So what else? Yeah, basketball. I was good at basketball. And then in high school, I actually ran track. But I kind of hit my growth spurt. I was a chubby kid. So kind of grew out of that probably about the 12th grade. I'm sorry, about 12 years old. What's that, 7th grade, 8th grade?
Yes.
And then high school kind of developed into, a more athletic frame. But I've always had problems with my weight. I can remember being on Brad Bates's rowing team. We talked about that a few weeks ago. For the fat boys that couldn't make weight, we had to do different things, though.
And I hated the rowing competitions. Did you, by chance, were you with the group that went up to Cincinnati to the?
No, I never went up. I wasn't that good. That was Craycraft and that whole crew. They were excellent, as I understand.
There's some great stories. Well, you heard Coach Bates.
Yeah. I remember it well.
And I want to pause for just a second. And I think this is awesome, Derrick. Do you guys hear that island accent coming through? He's pushing that Atlanta, that Southern drawl over just a little bit. I hear a little bit of that island. I love it.
It's funny because they say my Spanish. Can you imagine someone from the Deep South speaking Spanish? That's how they tease me about my Spanish. So now I'm getting it on the other end. Now my Southern drawl is sounding more like the islands.
I say it with the most love and I love it. But guys, we're talking with Derrick Sartor. He's originally from Texarkana, Texas, then grew up in Atlanta, and now he is in the DR, Big D's Barbecue. And I put a link, guys, to the Facebook page for it. But let's talk a little bit about high school football.
Okay.
With you growing up in a military household, I suspect that what traditionally comes with that is a lot of emphasis on discipline and just being regimented for the most part. And maybe some tough love in there. I'm not being judgmental, but just making assumptions. But
actually, my father was retired by the time I started high school, but he actually taught ROTC, junior ROTC, at a local high school in Atlanta. So I guess I was always still around the military. I always had a great deal of respect for the military. And I guess I come from a military family. Sure. But so that was kind of, the discipline was always there. And going back to that point, I just remember my parents giving me a lot of freedom to make my own decisions. You know, not that they let me run wild, but
Right.
they gave me enough respect to know that, you know, some of these tough decisions you have to make on your own. And to this day, I appreciate them that, because certain things that I've done, if not followed the normal path, you know, but it always worked out, you know what I mean? Because I followed my gut, and I kind of credit my parents to doing that.
Sink or swim.
Exactly, exactly.
Now, Derrick, did growing up, or do you have siblings, or were you an only child, or what was the family?
No, I have a younger sister. She's 15 months younger than I. She went to Emory University, graduated. She's in education, went on to get her PhD. Now she works for McGraw-Hill, the education book company. So she's doing very well. She's in Atlanta.
So she's got her doctorate. So she would be Dr. Sartor or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
oh, she's also a city councilwoman. She's also a city councilwoman in Jonesboro, Georgia.
Ooh, she's busy. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Derrick, let's stick with high school a little bit.
Okay.
I'm going to assume that you played either on defensive line or offensive line, or maybe a little bit of both. But what was it about the sport of football in general that just made you keep coming back and enjoying it each year?
With football, it was just kind of my high school, as I mentioned before, we were fortunate to have great athletes. So, and like I said, these guys I grew up with. So we all grew up in Pee Wee or Little League football together. So it was just a thing. It was a natural transition for me. So fortunately, you know, I kind of hit my growth spurt, and I was a little bit bigger, always bigger. That's hence the name Big D. That's nothing new. I was Big D in high school. So the only time I wasn't Big D was college, because guys are much bigger than me in college, you know?
Well, I'm going to pause you for just a second. Guys, Derrick came in the class after mine. Mine was 86. Derrick came in the fall of 87. And between him and Big Cedric Moore, my gosh, I'm playing on the scout team, and those guys are across the line. And I'm just thinking, oh, here we go. Here we go. We got Chris Gaines in the secondary. I mean, the second line. We got, oh, golly.
Wow.
Anyway, enough of those nightmares for me, but go back to high school. Talk about competing. What was it about competing that turned you to enjoy the sport?
And that was one of the things I think that kind of propelled me in college, was the fact that we were very competitive. It was nothing for us to get in brawls in high school. I mean, because everyone was good. Everyone was competing for a spot. So, yeah, so that was just kind of how I was conditioned to play the game. And I kind of carried that attitude when I got to college. I thought I always had to fight for my position, you know? And that was kind of the mentality I brought to college.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the recruiting process. I know academics were important to you and your family growing up, and I'm sure that played a factor in the Vanderbilt recruitment, but other schools were also after you as well. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was fortunate. Not only was I a great athlete, I was actually salutatorian of my graduating class. I was second in my class. So I had all of the academic schools, from Stanford, Duke, Vanderbilt, University of Virginia, all of those schools were recruiting me, as well as the Alabamas, Tennessee. Those were the schools I was primarily interested in. I think I had narrowed it down to Tennessee and Alabama going into the 6th game of my senior year of high school, when I tore my ACL. The night before, Ray Perkins was the coach at Alabama. He called me the night before and offered me. And the very next night I went out and tore.
We seem to have lost Derrick for just a second. Hopefully he'll come right back in. That's all right, Derrick. If you can hear me, bud, just sign back in, sign back out, or your reception will catch back up in just a second. While he's doing that, I want to share a couple of things with you guys in the upcoming weeks. I don't know if y'all looked at the schedule, but Athletics Director Candace Lee is going to join us on June 17th, and I'm very excited about that. We've got 8 or 9 other guests lined up over the next several weeks, so it really is. I'm so grateful that people want to do this. I'm so grateful that folks want to tell their story and share their journey. That's what makes this fun for me, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. as well as seeing videos such as Coach Lee offering those 3 walk-ons scholarships this past week. What a fantastic video. And did you catch what he said right before he announced the guys would be put on scholarship? Did you see that? He said, this is going to be the most important year in Vanderbilt football history. And I know there's a lot more to that thought or that comment from him. So I'm looking forward to hearing him expound on that maybe in some either press conferences or interviews that may be coming up. Hopefully Derrick will be signing back in just a minute. But if you guys, I want to remind you, if you have other teammates, classmates who played, were managers, cheerleaders, coaches, or were in the band, please invite them to join our group here. Also, if you see stuff laying around that's old jerseys or memorabilia or pictures, whatever you may have, feel free to either send them to me and I'll post them, or you guys post them in the group, because just seeing that stuff, it generates so many great memories and comments. And I really am enjoying seeing all the camaraderie here on the site. I hope you guys are joining that as well. Let me check real quick on Derrick. Nothing yet from him, but I'm sure he's going to join us in just a minute. He may be having some internet difficulties right now, but let's see, what else can I share with you? Kind of stalling a little bit, sorry about that. But let me tell you a little bit more about Derrick. It's not stuff that he will necessarily get into. Again, he was there from 87 to 91. He played, I was there from 86 to 90. Coach Watson Brown was the coach. Coach Greg Mantooth was his position coach. Let's see. Well, Derrick sent me, I was so glad he sent me a whole bunch of great memories that we'll get into when he comes back on for us in just a minute. So I'm gonna give him about another 90 seconds or so. And if he doesn't come back on, I'll pop off and then we'll both come back on. Let's see here. I do know that in the upcoming weeks over this summer, several cities, maybe in the South, I'm not sure what cities. I know Atlanta is one of them. Birmingham may be one, but Coach Lee is going to come down and have meetings or meals with alums. Here comes Derrick, in the communities. So be on the lookout for announcements from the Black and Gold Club or maybe from other areas, and I'll certainly share them. You back with us, Derrick? How you doing, bud? I was just
okay.
All right, bud. What we were talking about was a little bit of the recruiting process. Ray Perkins offered you the night before you had your injury.
Exactly. So after that, the Dukes, Virginia, and Stanford became my top 3 schools. And I took recruiting visits to all of them. And I had narrowed it down between the University of Virginia and Vanderbilt. And I chose Vanderbilt partially because I love the human development program. Believe it or not, even at, a 16, 17-year-old kid, I recognized that program would kind of serve me, throughout my life. So that was one reason. The second reason, it was fairly close to my home in Atlanta, and I knew my parents could get up and see me all the time. At the time, both Vanderbilt and the University of Virginia had identical records. Now, Virginia went on to share a national championship. But I chose Vanderbilt because I love in the city of Nashville. So for those 3 reasons, and I really felt like our class would come in and be part of the class to help turn the program around. And I could play it soon. Do
you remember having your recruiting visit? Do you remember?
Oh, absolutely.
Who were
who my host was?
Who?
God rest his soul. AJ. Arnold.
Arnold Elliott. Awesome.
Arnold Elliott, exactly.
Yeah,
we had a blast. So I came in the same weekend as, I think Rod Keefe came in that weekend. And I don't remember if Kerry Clem came in that weekend. Kerry Clem went on to be my roommate, but I hadn't met Kerry Clem on the recruiting visit to Duke when Steve Spurrier was there the week before.
That's interesting. And that how the intersection just
exactly.
That was as we're sold, that was way before the internet and connecting up and hey, we're gonna all sign with the one school together because we're gonna super team. But that's so pretty cool that I did remember that you and Clem roomed together. I want to say that Big Mo and Rod, I think, roomed together, which was kind of an interesting pair, even though they were both from Alabama. But so Vanderbilt was your choice.
Exactly.
You come to school and you got Coach Mantooth.
Mantooth, I love him to death. Yeah.
I'm terrible with the accent, and I don't mean to disparage him, but he was one of my very favorite. But before we get into Coach Mantooth, David Kropp he says, tell Big D for some reason, but he has your white number 35 jersey.
Oh, he does.
His son trick-or-treated in it for many years. All right, Derrick wants that jersey back, so y'all need to talk offline.
I do. Don't tell Luke, but I want my jersey back.
I think Luke watches these from time to time, but he did say the statute of limitations is up for everybody except Dave Kropp. So you're going to take it up with Luke. Let's talk about Coach Mantooth. He was so good at what he did, but he was one of the funniest people I had ever been.
Absolutely hilarious. And you know what I love about Mantooth? Mantooth was the same regardless of the situation. You're going to get that southern drawl with the dip in the side of his cheek, no matter where we are. If he has a suit on, if we're in front of the most famous or well-respected people, he's going to be the same. He's absolutely the same. That's what I loved about him.
But what was it really like being down in the trenches, being coached by him? What did you learn, not from just the sport, but off the field as well? What do you takeaways all these years later?
I don't know what it was about Coach Mantooth, but he made me feel like I didn't want to disappoint him. You know what I mean? And it's not that he put a guilt trip on me. It's just like I felt that he had enough confidence in me to let me play as a freshman and then go on to start as a freshman. That all throughout my career, I felt like I never want to let Coach Mantooth down. You know what I mean? I don't know what it was. He just had that effect on me.
I think that's such a great impact that a coach can have. And there's probably things that back in your Vanderbilt days and your high school days as well, those coaches that you probably carried forward in life lessons and sharing with your family as well. Dwayne Jones is watching and says hello.
Hey, Dwayne, what's up, buddy?
Well, Derrick, let's talk about the college game. You played in some big high school games. Atlanta's always been a hotbed for high school football and really all sports. But you go to the SEC, and as a freshman, you're playing against SEC schools in big stadiums with big crowds. Did stuff like that faze you, or were you kind of, I'm looking at everything in the stands, and until the first snap, I'm just, wow.
Well, you hit the nail right on the head. It took the first snap for me to get rid of my jitters. But nah, I was on the sidelines throwing up. You ask anybody that remember those days, I was always the one that was throwing up before the game on the sidelines. It was nothing for me to vomit on the sideline. But once I hit that field, the first snap, I'm good. And I don't know what it was. And it goes back to our very first scrimmage. When I came, I told you I tore my ACL, so I couldn't get on the field. Remember, you just have to wear the green X for limited contact? So that's how it was for the first scrimmage. It took weeks before I was able to participate in the first scrimmage. And then when I got into first scrimmage, ended up doing really well. And from that point on, I was able to play. But I remember after that scrimmage, oh man, I just vomited. And I wish I could remember her name. She was a big supporter. Oh my goodness. And I can remember her tapping me on my shoulder and giving me a stick of gum and a bottle of water. Oh, I wish I could remember her name. But she was a big supporter throughout my time at Vanderbilt.
I suspect Dwayne or somebody who has the real memory will be able to come up with that woman's name. But Derrick, I wanted to talk about, sports medicine back in the 80s is so ancient compared to now. ACL now, you're back playing in like 3 weeks or a month. Back then, it sometimes were big scars, very invasive, not as much of the scope type.
Exactly.
Or laser.
The scar on my knee is probably about 9 to 12 inches, I guess. And you know something? Can I tell you a story about the ACL? When I tore my ACL, I can remember going to the emergency room that night, and I don't know who the emergency room doctor was, but I went in my football uniform, obviously, and once he, took the X-rays and whatever, he took the MRI, whatever he did, he came back and was like, okay, yeah, it's definitely torn. somehow or another, I remember him saying that basically my football days were over. Oh, Bernard, that was the biggest motivation ever. You know what I mean? And I just knew that wasn't the case. You know what I mean? I just really knew that that was never going to be the case.
It goes to that fight or flight
Mm-hmm.
mental state.
Mm-hmm.
Because many athletes easily could have just folded tent, done your rehab. You were academic oriented as it was.
Yep.
You could have gone to the University of Virginia or Duke or even Vanderbilt academically,
Mm-hmm.
but that wasn't your path.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Your
And I
path,
can remember you speaking about modern medicine. John Norwick, when I came up for my recruiting visit, they took me through a litany of medical exams. I went to seem like every orthopedic surgeon, knee specialist in the Nashville area, and so I guess he gave me the thumbs of approval, and that's how I ended up being able to be at Vanderbilt, I guess.
well, and speaking of Wig, I now that it's the off season, I'm desperately trying to get him on this summer before football really cranks back up for him. But we all remember Wig in the late 80s and early 90s. And of course, he's now been with the Steelers for going on, I think, almost 30 years and is just a legendary trainer in the NFL. But
you talking about hilarious. Who was talking about Mantooth being hilarious? Wig was ridiculous. He was very funny.
Well, you know what was so funny? John is kind of diminutive in size, particularly compared to you and the Cedrics of the world. And he would act like he'd want to fight you right there.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's about this big.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, Derrick, let's talk about some on-field memories aside from the throwing up part of it.
Okay.
What were some of your better memories? I know we had a great big win against Florida at home when they wore those putrid, or we wore those putrid yellow uniforms. But what are some good memories for you? Some big sacks or fumbles or big wins?
Well, that goal line stand against Florida, I remember that like it was yesterday. I can almost remember the defense that was called. And that was just like, I can remember after making the big stop, everyone going around doing that Florida Gator thing in the end zone. Oh my goodness, that was probably one of my best memories. I actually had my freshman year 2 interceptions.
Yes, you did.
My freshman year. So I got started with a bang. And maybe my first or second game, I had a sack. So it kind of came quickly. All that was the best. I mean, as far as memory is concerned. But more importantly was just like the camaraderie, hanging out with the fellas. And I guess as we get older, we appreciate it more. You know what I mean? So I look at those times that we had in the towers together, those football parties.
Right there. We're going to get to the steroid parties in a minute.
Okay.
But I meant to ask you, I want to talk about the mindset of rebuilding that confidence in your knee and your abilities coming off of injury. What was it that gave you that confidence, Derrick, to get back in the arena?
Going back to that, I can remember being really down because I had that medical shirt on. I had limited contact that wouldn't let me go any full contacts. And we had 1 or 2 scrimmages before the scrimmage I told you about. And I can remember taking a knee and feeling a tap on my shoulder. And I looked around, it was one of my high school coaches, my position coach in high school. His name was Coach Lee. His family he had family from Tennessee. So he came up that summer to see his family. And while he was there in town, he stopped by to see me. So I talked to him after it, and somehow or another he knew me and knew my spirit was kind of down. And he was talking to me, and I was telling Coach they won't let me, I can't get in. I can't play. I know I can perform at this level, but I can't get in. He said, don't worry about it. You can get your shot, but make sure when you get your shot, you take full advantage of it. And it wasn't a week later that we had another scrimmage, and they put me in. And I remember a sweep play that went to, of all people, Everett Crawford. You had him on a couple of weeks ago. I lit him up. I absolutely lit him up. Every time they ran that toss sweep, I just lit him up. So that right there kind of sealed my ability to be able to get on the travel squad. And because we were a little thin at defensive end on the left side, I think that really helped out a lot, and that was able to play as a true freshman.
Now, which knee was it, Derrick, that was the bad knee?
It was my left knee.
And how did that impact being on the left side with the left knee? Or did it?
I never really thought about that. Maybe it does make a difference because I tried the right end. I was always uncomfortable on the right side. We used to follow the strength at one point in time, depending on the defense we were running. We used to follow the strength, but then we became left end and right end. So I just remember always being uncomfortable on the right side. But I never attributed that to my knee. You know what I mean?
Well, I didn't. I just was just curious. One of our former teammates, Joe Peebles, says to tell you hello.
What's up, buddy?
And he says he's coming to the DR in 2022.
Hey, I'm waiting for you. I got your room ready.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, guys, I'm talking with Big D, Soto, Derrick Sartor from the Dominican Republic. We're talking about being on the field. We're talking about how nervous Derrick used to get before games, but finding some early success. And Derrick, I want to talk about what the average fan out there doesn't know, because they're sitting up in the stands. Let's talk about in the pile. You're in the bottom. You got a running back all tied up, and you're on top of him, and there's 8 other guys on top of y'all. What's going on in that pile right there?
Well, the best way I could describe it is I got to fast forward a little bit and move to my senior year when I moved to tackle, defensive tackle, which for me was a completely different world. I had always played on the end. And for me, it was great playing on the end because I could see the motion coming to me, right? So I can shield it off. But when you move down to tackle, you get it coming from every end, you know what I mean? From in front of you, from right, from left, you get chopped and everything. I hated it, absolutely hated it with a passion. But I think I ate myself into it, you know what I mean? I started off at a defensive end I reported at 212. But I remember I hurt my knee, so I lost a lot of weight. I played at 235 in high school, something like that. But eventually got up to my best playing weight was probably about 245, maybe 250.
Yeah,
but somehow or another.
Your freshman photo that you sent to me that I've posted, you look like a running back.
I had a running back number, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. But that was like, Clem and I used to laugh because he was a receiver. He weighed like 219. I weighed 212. So I always got a big kick out of that.
But by your senior year, what had you gotten up to when you're playing defense?
I probably had gotten up to about 265, which is way too heavy. I ended up losing it like toward the end of the season when they moved me back to end. But you were asking me what it was like to be at the bottom of the pile. Yeah. I really felt it when I was playing defensive tackle. Not so much when I was playing the end, but I felt it doing defensive tackle.
I'm sure you did. Let's go off the field a little bit, because I know your passions, at least when you get some downtime, is sitting on a lake fishing.
Sorry, say it one more time.
Sitting on a lake and fishing.
Oh, I love fishing.
Let's talk about Percy. Let's talk about the lake and fishing in Nashville.
Well, my father introduced me to fishing at a very young age. Now, keep in mind, my father was a tough military guy, but couldn't swim, scared to death of the water. Wow. So, but he loved to fish. So what he would do is he would literally tie a rope around my waist and tie it to a tree because he was always so worried about me falling in the water.
Oh my God.
So that's how I began fishing. And out of college, I moved to Florida, the Central Florida area. Had a good buddy of mine, one of my fraternity brothers, and he loved to fish too. He's from Jacksonville. So he really taught me like saltwater fishing. Before that, I was crappie, brim, smallmouth, big mouth bass. But he taught me how to saltwater fish. So we would go and like I said, we were recent college. Well, I was a recent college graduate. He was a couple years ahead of me. So our gear wasn't the best, you know what I mean? So we would go out to like Port St. Lucie and all these different places, to the jetties and the rocks, and just get beat up. The water just pounding on us, equipment getting snagged, all kind of just terrible stuff. But we had a ball. So eventually, those bonus checks, I was in pharmaceutical sales at the time, he was in construction. The money started to come in, the equipment started to increase. He ended up getting a boat, so we would go out on the boats. We had a blast. I love fishing. Now, I've been down here 12 years in the DR. I may have been fishing twice.
I'm sure you've been so very busy at the restaurant.
Yeah.
We're going to come back to the restaurant toward the end. But I want to talk about you fishing with Renfrew Grease and going out to Percy Priest Lake.
I forgot all about my buddy Reese. Reese is from McDonough, Georgia, just about 30 minutes south of where I'm from. I didn't know it at the time until I got to college, and I told him. He told me he was from McDonough. I said, I'm from College Park, and I was like, where's that, South Georgia? He's like, stupid, that's about 30 minutes from you. I was like, oh, I didn't know.
Gosh, you guys didn't play each other.
No, we didn't. Like I said, it was, although it's only 30 minutes away, less than 30 minutes probably, but we never, different different conferences and everything. But nevertheless, Renford was a good old country boy, just like me, I guess. And so we love to fish. And you know, Renford, he loves to tell stories. So we would literally get up early in the morning and go fishing. But we would go to, I think is it Percy Priest? Is that the name of the lake?
Yep.
We would go so early in the morning that when we got there, we were scared to get out of the car because it was so dark and the clouds would be rolling over the lake. It was like this fog. It just looked really eerie, right? So we would just sit in the car, just telling jokes, cracking whatever we were talking about. And but we used to have the best time, just him and I going out fishing and Percy Priest. Because I don't know how we found this little hole, but where it was, we would have to park on the side of the road and walk down this little hill into the woods. And we really had to walk back into the woods. And it was like the perfect little fishing hole. And that's what our spot was. But we literally would be so scared to walk in there that time of morning that we would have to wait till the sun come up a little bit.
Well, you know, it's outings like that and having an outlet like that to get yourself away from campus, to get yourself away from your books, from football, from whatever responsibilities, even if it's just an hour or 2 or 3, like a Saturday morning, whatever it is. I think that is so important for the college athlete to have that. And not enough back then.
I wonder if the kids now, do you think the kids now do that? You know, do stuff like that, go fishing, hunting?
Well, what I was going to say, the answer to that is yes, because when we were in school, there was no time hours limit during our time period during the school year. Then they started to impose, I don't know what the current obligations are, but I am sure the kids find other things to do. I'm not saying they're not any less serious about their craft or their sport than we were. Yeah. There's just a lot more to do. It was lots back in our day. But guys, I'm talking with Derrick Sartor. Soto, we're just talking about fishing at Percy Priest Lake in Nashville. I want to go back to the academic angle of this.
Okay.
You said that human development was so important to you or really appealing to you, and that's one of the factors that brought you to campus. Mm-hmm. For folks who were not in that school, in that college, within the Vanderbilt system, kind of tell abroad, what is human development? What is that?
Yeah, at the time, the way it was described to me as a young, rising high school senior was, it's a program where you can kind of create your own destiny, right? You can take classes that you're interested in, but the key is all communication. You learn how to communicate in small groups, big groups, interpersonal communication skills. These are all things that you use no matter what business you're in. And it required that you have an internship, which was really appealing to me, because I always knew that, for some reason, I knew that it was more than just going to college, taking classes. You need to get some type of work experience. So all of that kind of made it very interesting to me. And I didn't see that at the other universities. And like I said, they were top-notch universities. But this program, the way it was described to me, I remember Dr. Bob Ennis sitting down, having a one-on-one with us and him explaining the program. It was fairly new at the time. I think it was only 2 in existence. One at Northwestern, which I'm so proud of Derrick Gragg now, being at Northwestern, and the other being at Vanderbilt.
Shout out right there to one of our former teammates, Dr. Gragg, being named the AD at Northwestern this past week. That's so cool.
It really is. I can't tell you how happy I am for that. But that was the thing that was appealing to me, because I was like, well, this is great. I can kind of build my own career path, my own degree path, and then get an internship. So all of that was just like, sign me up.
You know, it clearly made a very favorable impression if you can remember one of your mentors' names 30 years later. I mean, that's
exactly. Dr. Ennis.
Derrick, that just speaks volumes. Now, I want to talk about when you're in high school and you're sitting in a classroom of 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. They all know you. You're one of the starters, good athlete, big dude. The average dude is not as big as you. You go to Vanderbilt, I'm thinking it's even bigger contrast. So I want to talk about you walking into class and you're maybe the only football player, or maybe there's only 1 or 2 other athletes in the room. Did they treat you any differently? Or did they?
I can't really say. I don't remember feeling any different. And I don't know if that's because of, how I was raised or, but I don't really ever remember feeling awkward in class. I think there have been times I felt awkward as far as getting up in front of the group and speaking. That was kind of new to me. I didn't, although I was a great student, I just felt nervous, just like I did before football games. I would feel nervous in speaking in front of big groups. So, but I don't necessarily remember feeling awkward or out of place. In fact, it was just the exact opposite. I felt like I belonged. You know what I mean? And
no,
I'll leave it at
that. That's a welcomed response, because I've had so many conversations with guys who didn't feel that welcomed. In fact, had confrontations with professors or administrators, and that really altered the course of their academic career, of their being at campus. It made a big difference in some people, but I'm glad that your experience was so positive. And I guess, Derrick, it certainly is an appealing thing when you can set your course of study in that manner. Oh, Dwayne Jones says that you and he had a small group speech class together, interpersonal communication. You remember that class?
Did he do all the interpersonal communicating? Because I know I couldn't. He must have did it all in the group.
I took that same class. I don't think it was with you guys. I was in there with Ray Sadecki and a couple of baseball players one summer. And I don't remember what my speech was, but there was only like 8 of us in the class. And Derrick, I normally don't get nervous about anything, but you were talking about throwing up. It was my day to speak, and it was only a 3-minute speech. I ended up going in the bathroom and relieving myself that way, and coming back in and being all wet, and But, it teaches.
Now, you graduated with a Peabody degree, or you graduated a human development degree?
No, I had a history degree.
Okay.
Yeah. One of your signing classmates, the coolest dude in the room from the West Coast, Louie.
Big Lou. What's up, buddy?
Other than the fact that he roots for those Dodgers, there's everything great about Sweet Lou. No,
That's all right. Lou's will always be all right with me. I used to live in LA in the summers, so Lou would come by and visit me.
Awesome. And Joe, I did reach out to Dr. Reese. He's thinking about it, and I do hope he comes on the show sometime.
Okay.
But I promise you guys, I'm trying to get as many folks on here, and some are ready, willing, and able, and others just need a little bit more time. And let's see, Derrick, we got a few more minutes. We got some stuff. I want you to share more about your Vanderbilt experience that really made an impression on you, whether it was good or bad, whatever you want to share. The floor is yours for now.
I just remember we talked about briefly those parties, those steroid parties on the floors. You know what? We didn't know it at the time, but those are the greatest bonding experiences, It really prepared us to deal with different people from different walks of life. We all got along. Everybody was different, trust me. Everyone was very, very different. But those parties came together. We didn't fight about what music was being played or who was visiting. Everybody had a blast. You know what I mean?
You did. Derrick, we had guys from all over the country on our team, white, black, other races, other nations. But what I loved about it, you're so right, it's that team mentality. Now, it wasn't all roses. Not everybody got along.
No, of course not.
But one of my most favorite vivid memories is a Jeff Mays blasting whatever was the music.
That DJ, right? Yeah.
And you go into those corner rooms where either there was a bar set up by the Chicago guys or the big sound systems. That's just after a Saturday night home basketball win.
Yes.
That was
It was crazy, right?
Times, wasn't it?
Hey, talking about people being from everywhere else. Now it's time to talk about Big Mo and those and that what do you call it? Pickled pig feet.
Oh yeah, but before you tell the story, I got to set it straight, guys.
Okay.
I had my facts wrong. Big Mo is every bit with us. I talked to him earlier this week. He's about to become a grandfather for the second time. He lives in Bessemer, 20 minutes away. He and I are going to get some food hopefully this next week. Says to tell you all hello. He's thinking about whether he wants to come on the show. But if you didn't know Big Mo at the time, I want you to describe Big Mo and his personality, and then I want you to tell the story.
Big Mo had the most outgoing. I mean, first of all, Big Mo, 300 maybe? 300? 6'2", 6'3", 300?
Yeah.
And probably about 4'6", 4'7", maybe?
Guys, he could move.
Yeah, he could fly.
Woo.
He could fly. And this a bruiser. But every bit, okay, you know what I liken him to? He was our Charles Barkley.
Yeah.
When you say, kind of.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yep.
I mean, but this is a great. I mean, this is a great dude. Always had a story. Always had a smile on his face, and just a good dude, overall dude. But truly Southern, truly from the South. And that kind of brings me to. I can remember sitting in my room one day. I don't know if it was a weekend or during the week, but it was one night. Door, you know how we used to keep our doors open and everything. I could hear all this commotion out in the hall, like guys screaming like girls. I'm like, what's going on? I walk out, Big Mo chasing people around the hallway with a pickled pig feet in his hand. And I was like, I'm from the South. My dad's from Carolina. My dad actually liked pickled pig feet, but I was scared to death. I went in my room, closed my door. But it was the funniest thing seeing grown guys go to their rooms or running around from a pickled pig feet.
Well, I had the pleasure, if you will, or maybe the obligation. I had a car in school, and I'm from South Alabama, and I'd come right through Birmingham. I usually had get this.
Okay.
I had Thor Erickson, Stump Johnson, and Cedric Moore usually were the guys I was taking home.
All of y'all in the same car?
All in the same car.
That was a ride.
I had an old Buick Cutlass, a Regal. It was a two-door sedan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, it was a trip. But Big Ced was as dumb as a fox. I mean, people who didn't know Ced or don't know Ced just assumed that he was not nearly as cerebral as he is or was back in the day. Well, Dwayne just brought it back. I was going to make a comment. I remember we played Alabama at home, I think in 87. Would have had to have been in 87 at night. David Smith is the quarterback for Alabama. Bobby Humphrey's on the Bama team. David Smith was a lefty, number 13, and he somehow had scrambled toward the Alabama sidelines. Mm-hmm. And so his whole body was exposed to the main part of the field. He's looking downfield. And I just saw, I think wasn't Cedric number 50, if I remember correctly.
Number 50, yes.
He lifted his feet and he made direct contact with the collarbone of the quarterback for Alabama, and that he was done. I think it broke.
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
Ooh, Big Ced, because we watched that play over and over and over.
He brought the thud. I mean, he was a hitter. He was a thumper.
He was. And guys, I hope to get him on the show, Pickled Pig's Feet or not. And that's upcoming weeks. Guys, I'm talking with Derrick Sartor. We're Big D. We are talking about just some good old times back in the day. We got just a couple more minutes, Derrick. And before we let you get out of here, I want to talk about, I really like to talk about the journey of each athlete, and you're sharing most of your journey with us. But I want to talk about life after football. Okay. I want to talk about, you get into your professional career, then you get into your family life. And along the way, we learn lessons as children and as adolescents and as young teens and 20s that hopefully we can incorporate as adults and then pass on to the next generation. What is it about team sports that taught you how to be a better man? What was it about being on the Vanderbilt campus and going to school there that helped shape some of your life decisions?
Being responsible for your own actions. If I had to take one take home, when you're part of a team, you have to be responsible for your action because other people are depending on you, and the success of the team relies on your ability to be able to get your job done. So I kind of carried that mentality throughout life, if I take on a responsibility, if I take on a job, I'm going to give it my all and make sure that I do everything possible to keep the team alive or keep the team winning. So that's probably the biggest thing, if I had to pass it along to anyone, that team sports offer you is the recognition that you are part of a team. You don't do this on your own. You're dependent on everyone else. So if you fall short, then your team falls short. So that's probably the biggest lesson that I've learned. That's probably the biggest lesson that I learned.
Now, if you're it's a wonderful life lesson, and I appreciate you sharing that. Let's say you're living back in your old stomping grounds in Atlanta, and you're a 15, 16-year-old athlete coming up. Would you go through and play college football again?
Would I do it again? 100%. I credit being a college athlete to every success that I've had in life. both personally, professionally. Every major success I kind of contribute to being a college athlete. And it's that mindset that you take, well, I went through two-a-days. I went through the losses. I went through the wins. You know, I know how to get along with different people. So everything I've done in my career path has taken all kind of ways. I started off as a professor in pharmaceutical sales. I did that for a number of years. I went on to biotech sales, and then I went into real estate investing, opened a mortgage brokerage. At the same time, I've always enjoyed cooking, and I ended up getting a culinary degree when I was in high school. I forgot about it, but I always had it, right?
You should have led with that right there.
Yeah, I didn't realize it until many years later. I graduated from high school early, and all of the girls were in the culinary arts program at the vocational school. So they used to bus us over there. Me and my buddy, we both love to cook. Yeah. So we did that. And I remember we actually got a certificate. We got a culinary, whatever you call it, back then. That was in high school. And so I've always had a passion for cooking. And I didn't realize it until someone brought it to my attention many, many years later. I'm like, wow, I guess I am a certified chef. I just had forgotten.
Well, that leads me to the last topic I want to talk about, and that's Big D's Barbecue. How did you end up in the DR back in 2007 and open up this awesome barbecue place?
But now that's a whole show in itself, but I'm going to try to be brief because I know we'll have people that's left. Okay. I told you about all the different things I did: pharmaceutical sales, real estate investing. When I left industry, I went into, became an entrepreneur and doing my own things. So I always had these extra time in the evening where I have parties at my house or cookouts or dinner parties. And that led to me cooking for different events for friends, which led to me opening up a catering company because I was doing something every week. So next thing you know, I ended up catering a party for a friend of mine's mother. She's kind of like my mom too. So she called me up and like, Derrick, I have a brunch with a club, with some ladies that I belong to a club that's in my club. I said, cool. Went over, cooked for the brunch, found out that it was the mothers of the NBA players association. All the NBA players, their moms have a group or a club or association or whatever. So they loved the food. After it was over, it's like, give me your number. I want you to be my son's chef. Bernard, at the time, I had real estate interest. I had mortgage business. I had all these other things. The furthest thing on my mind was being a professional chef.
Yeah.
That next week, I started getting phone calls from different managers and representatives from players in the NBA. Said that they were told to contact me about being a chef. It just so happened that a guy by name Al Harrington, who had just signed with the Hawks, lived. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna go over here and meet with this guy, explain to him I'm not a chef, I'm a friend of the lady that was hosting the party. And then it would be a great mortgage contact. If you ever need a mortgage or finance a business or whatever, I'm here for you. That was my plan. I knocked on the door. The guy opened the door and was like, how do you want us to pay you? First words out of his mouth. How do you want us to pay you? And I'm like, what? I was like, so that changed my whole plan about explaining what I am and trying to get the mortgage business. So anyway, I became his private chef. And he was a young guy, so he was really cool for a lot of players and throughout the league. So when they come in town, they would always come over his house to eat. So I ended up meeting all these NBA players. And then I ended up becoming Stephon Marbury's chef when he played with the Knicks.
Hold on, wait a minute. Did any of you guys know this about Big D? Where you been hiding all this part of it?
I don't know, man. Life, I told you, life just kind of takes you places. Sometimes I feel like Forrest Gump. You know the movie? Like he was like on the cutting edge of everything, and this kind of happened. That's my life. That's my life.
Awesome.
So anyway, I was Stephon Marbury's chef in New York when he was with the Knicks, and I started vacationing down to the DR. The last year he got traded to Boston halfway through the basketball season in December. So he stayed in a hotel and he's like, D, let's hook up after the season is over, because we lived in LA in the summer months when he's training when the basketball season is over. I said, great, I'm gonna go down to the DR, stay for a few months, and then I come back to work out in LA. Came to the DR, fell in love with it. I'm like, I'm here now, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna open up a little barbecue stand on the beach. And literally that's what it was. It was just a little shack so that me and my friends would have something to do on the weekend. I would just put some burgers or whatever on the grill. And so I was like, well, if I'm gonna light this grill, I might as well try to sell something. So, that's how it started.
Derrick, that's incredible story. Guys, this is why I do this, is to hear these journeys. It's awesome. It really is.
Let me share something else, the power of social media, because this was the kind of when it was starting in 2008, when YouTube and all these social media outlets were just beginning. That's what happened. It kind of took a viral approach, and it just became organic. And so a guy from Chicago came down, enjoyed my food. He's like, I'm gonna be here 14 days. I'm gonna come every day and eat. He literally came every day to eat. And then the last day, he's like, you mind if I take a video? So I said, yeah, sure. He said, no, I want you in it. Go stand by your grill. Tell me about yourself. So he took a little video, 5 minutes video, whatever. Didn't think nothing else about it. The following couple of weeks, I started getting people saying, oh, we saw you on the internet. I hadn't put anything on the internet, Bernard. I had lost my computer was stolen. So I got in the habit, not even checking my emails or anything on the internet. So I was like, that can't be me. But it kept happening. Come to find out, someone told me exactly where it was. I went to go look on YouTube, and he had posted this video of me in front of my grill, and it had tens of thousands of hits by this time, of views. And I learned later, because of the algorithm, if you search Dominican vacation and Big D or barbecue, any combination of those, it was so finite at the time that I just came up. So it got to the point, whenever you're researching your Dominican vacation, Big D's comes up. So that's how I end up getting clients and guests from all over the world.
Man, that's awesome. Now, I need to start seeing those TikTok videos of Big D's barbecue.
See, I'm gonna leave that. Are those TikToks the one you have to dance?
Well, you don't have to dance.
Okay. I got to do my research on TikTok. I used to love watching you and your daughter do your TikTok dances. So I always equated TikTok with dancing.
No, that was her leading. That's a young person leading that. But all you got to do is show what's going on the grill, my friend. You'll kill it.
All right, I'll work on it.
Derrick, I could talk to you for the next hour, but I know we both got to go. But man, thank you for sharing your story, your incredible story. It's just awesome tonight. And I certainly wish you continued success, good health, and we hope to break bread in person with you sometime in the near future.
Looking forward to it.
Any chance we can get you to Nashville this fall for a game, you just let us know.
Well, let's see. I'm interested in seeing how the new administration does and new coach, but I'm cheering. Please believe I'm always here trying to find a Vanderbilt game some kind of way, either on a computer, on a television, or something. So I'm still representing VU down here.
We know you are, buddy, and I hope folks continue to come see you, and much success.
Okay.
Guys, this is why I do these interviews. They're not interviews, they're conversations. It's conversations with Commodores, and one of my favorites, Derrick Sartor, tonight. So thank you, Big D.
All right. Thank you, boss. Take care.
Guys, we'll see you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.